everybody, and welcome back to another brand new video where, well, I've had most of 24 hours to have another think about this episode, to actually watch it again and give you guys a more calm, more in-depth and detailed and straight thinking review, I guess, to this episode, because yesterday's video I really enjoyed doing, but was just kind of a crazy, here's what I think about the episode. I hope you enjoyed that, and the response to that has been amazing, so thank you. But yeah, today I'm going to give a little bit more of a detailed, calm breakdown look at what worked, what didn't in the episode, and some thoughts for the future as well. So yes, Fugitive of the Judoon is an episode that's got more packed into than any episode I can really remember for quite a long time. For a non-finale episode as well, to put this much just different things into it, to try and just throwing so many shocks and twists and things you just don't expect into one episode, and to do it in episode 5 of the series, I think is quite something. So we'll start near the beginning at least, with introducing Ruth as this character initially that we see, and her husband Lee. At the sort of early on, they're very much trying to, I think, build up the misdirection of thinking that Lee is the one who's the fugitive, he's the one who's the alien of some description, that the Judoon are after. There's the dossier that stupid Alan in the coffee shop has, who's a bit of a pointless, stupid character, but I guess he was there to create the dossier to kind of build up the mystery around Lee as a character and kind of take the focus off Ruth, which it feels like, although we're so tightly focusing on Ruth in these first sort of maybe 10-15 minutes or so, it feels like they're also just trying to put us off the scent by kind of hammering down our throats. Look, she's just a tour guide. Look, she's just a normal person who is having a little interaction with her friends, and then suddenly these Judoon turn up and she's got no idea who they are. Well, this lead character is being all really shady and does these mysterious things. We've got to get Ruth out. We've got to run away and everything. Like, it's very much sort of built up that way to then give you the twist that it's not Lee who's kind of the main person behind it, which I think works quite effectively. And I was kind of buying into it early on, even though when you look back at it in retrospective, obviously the very first shot of the episode is her watching her, the ticking of the watch, obviously implying the sort of time lord nature of it. But then that nice sort of rough cut to the toast popping up in terms of actually she's a human at the moment, but the Time Lord is what she's going to become, that we sort of get in the first shot of the episode, which I think is really cool. The roundel-shaped mirror as well that she looks in just before she leaves her house at the start of the day, the start of the episode, is a mirror in the shape of a roundel from the TARDIS, which I didn't notice film first viewing, but seeing again, yeah, another little reference there. Just these little things that were just put in during the episode to kind of hint at what was to come, but obviously you don't really notice it or take it in enough until after you've seen it and then in rewatch, which is cool. In the early part of this episode, we also get a nice scene in the TARDIS where we find out from the Doctor that she's actually searching for the Master, because essentially she wants to find out what's going on with Gallifrey and the Timeless Child. Obviously the Master destroyed Gallifrey, at least that's what he told us. So she kind of wants to find him to punish him for that, I guess, or tell him off for that at the very least, and also find out about what this whole big lie about the Timeless Child is and everything. So it's quite nice to hear about that. And also this intriguing thing that she just drops her companions off on random planets and then goes back to Gallifrey for some reason, which I don't quite understand, given that Gallifrey's in complete ruins. Like, what's she doing there? I don't really know. She's trying to rebuild Gallifrey? I don't know. But that just kind of, to some extent, it was a little, here's a reminder of the arc that we left in episode 2 that we're carrying on in this episode and onwards. But I also felt like it was quite a nice scene where we had this sort of the fan properly sort of questioning the Doctor and being like, why are you doing these things? Why are you not letting us find out what's really going on? Why can't we finally see your home? And all these different things. It very much feels like they're getting, at this point in the episode, a lot more kind of intrigued and interested and want to find out what's going on, but she just doesn't want to tell them, which I think they're sort of finding quite challenging by this stage. Then obviously we get the introduction to the Judoon into this episode. We see a nice Judoon warship, or Judoon ship, or whatever they're called, and lots of Judoon sort of marching and storming around on their ship, shouting out in their language, which is quite fun and cool to see. Just like, it's not that often really in Doctor Who that we see aliens talking in an alien language, which I just think is quite fun, and obviously the Judoon just have an entertaining accent anyway, or not accent, an entertaining language, with their whole 2 or 3 letter words that end in O's, Joko, Frono, or whatever. It's just quite cool and fun, and I thought that it really kind of just set it up quite nicely, reintroduced them into the show really, really well, I thought, before then suddenly, boom, they turn up in Gloucester. We see sort of hordes of them all reappearing there, putting their containment field around this area of Gloucester, even though they're not really supposed to. And just marching around and trying to catalogue people doing the same thing, but they upgraded a little stamp rather than a marker pen this time around, which was quite funny, and just shooting people who disagree with them and don't follow them, which is again showing the kind of more ruthless side of the Judoon as well, should we say. I think in terms of the visual look of it, the Judoon head that we saw from the main Judoon leader looked really, really good in this episode. I thought, like, it looked, I think, a lot more real maybe than the last one. It sort of felt like this was a more believable, not that it was bad in the previous Smith and Jones, but I just felt it was that little bit more believable this time round. And the voice, I think, worked really well, and voiced by Nicholas Briggs, of course. I think he did a really good job in portraying the Judoon character, the Judoon leader. It's actually a really hard word to say, Judoon. You never really think about it, but actually it's quite a mouthful to try and say Judoon. But yeah, anyway, that's besides the point. Just obviously we established all this sort of stuff early on in Gloucester. Then randomly we see Graham's character getting teleported away to somewhere. This mysterious ship that we saw in the trailer that we thought was maybe a TARDIS very early from the original Series 12 trailer. And then of course, who is it? It's going to turn up. It's Captain Jack. It's brilliant. It's a great reveal. I love having it where we just hear his voice at first, and you're kind of like, well, I think that sounds like Captain Jack, but I'm not 100% sure. And then his moment where he bursts onto screen, sort of saying, "Did you miss me?" with a little wink. It's kind of like he's saying that to the audience, I think, as much as he's saying to the who he thinks at least is the Doctor and Graham. I mean, it's a brilliant moment. I love it when he goes up and just starts snogging Graham, and then being like, "Oh, hello, Doctor," and then realizing it's obviously not the Doctor. I mean, it's completely just typical Captain Jack. His whole appearance in this episode is completely just him to a T. And there are also a few great moments in there. It does feel a little bit superfluous to the actual plot of this story. It's very much a sort of side story with Captain Jack's come to give the Doctor a warning about a future episode and hint to the audience what's going to happen in a future episode and what we should be excited for, which I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with doing. I think it would just be a shame if Captain Jack doesn't come back and this is his only appearance in the show whatsoever in terms of his return. I mean, I'm sure he will come back, but it would be a real shame if he didn't. I don't want to delve into Captain Jack too much in this video because I'm going to be doing a bigger video on Captain Jack's appearance in this episode and the future of him alone. So I'll kind of leave it at that pretty much for now. But yes, I really, really enjoyed seeing him back. Just maybe his role wasn't necessarily that involved in the plot particularly, and obviously it was a shame he didn't get to meet the Doctor. But you never know, maybe in a future episode. It's just, while that's all happening as a sort of a side plot, we've got the Doctor, Ryan and Yaz left on Earth, and they're trying to kind of stop the Judoon from basically storming in and killing Ruth or Lee or whoever we think at this point might be the Fugitive. Again, there's still that misdirection where it seems like Lee kind of understands a bit of what's going on, this mysterious box he's got, but Ruth is completely unaware of what's going on. And then Ruth obviously escapes with the Doctor. Yaz and Ryan try to distract the Judoon and get beamed up into Captain Jack's ship, or whatever ship he's stolen at least. And then we get this Commander Gat turn up when the Judoon finds Lee there, who is an intriguing sort of presence. And obviously we later find out that she is from Gallifrey. I guess I'm going to call her a Time Lord because actually I got it wrong in my initial thoughts video yesterday. There is a point in the episode where they're referencing that they're Time Lords. So I'm going to roll with the idea that Gat is a Time Lord. I think the key interesting thing is whether this Lee character is a Time Lord as well. I think he is because, well, he makes one really off-the-cuff comment that I didn't notice until I watched it this second time round, which is when he goes in very early on and talks to the guy in the chap in the cafe, and he's getting all angry at him because he thinks he could do better and all that, and thinks Ruth could do better and all that, and then he just says under his breath, "humans," and in this sort of derogatory way, which I think is kind of implying that he's not a human, in the way he's talking about humans as this silly race of people, that he's above, basically, I think is the implication there. And then obviously when he gets killed, the reference she says about face your companion, implying I think that Lee is the companion to the Doctor, which we find out later on in this episode. But I get the impression that he's got to be a Time Lord because but then he's shown as human by the Judoon when they scan him. He's a human, so I think that he is a Time Lord, but has used the Community Arch to become human, but not to the extent that he's lost all his memory of it and become a different person necessarily, because he clearly knows what's going on and he's kind of looking after and trying to protect Ruth, who he knows is actually the Doctor. And they seem to have quite well, I guess they're sort of married, aren't they, essentially, which is quite something which we don't really see with Doctor and Companion in the current era of the show, obviously, or in any year. They've never really been properly that romantically involved, shall we say, even if maybe they've wanted to sometimes. So that poses some interesting questions there. But as I say, I'm pretty sure that Lee is a Time Lord because of Gat talking about them being in training together, and they had a funeral for him on presumably on Gallifrey, back at home, which all suggests that he's got to be a Time Lord who's just used the Community Arch to become a human, but not somehow, however it works, I don't know, but to not to the same level that Ruth has, that he's lost his memory of being a Time Lord. So yeah, and I find it, as I said yesterday, I find it very intriguing that with both Lee and Gat, they were both just shot and killed, and that was it. They weren't able to regenerate. I guess the explanation for that would be that these weapons they were using have come from Gallifrey and presumably have a powerful enough beam that can just disintegrate a Time Lord. Either that or they have teleported and escaped at the last minute and we just don't know about that yet, which I wouldn't be wholly surprised by, but I feel like the more simple and likely explanation is just that because this gun is this laser rifle thing is from Gallifrey, it's a Time Lord weapon that can kill Time Lords, basically, is I think the implication there. So yes, we get all of this. We get the last of the scenes with Captain Jack and Ryan and Yaz and Graham. Then that's it. He disappears. He does this whole thing about the Lone Cyberman, which I'll talk more about in another video, not in this one. So check out, I think it's coming tomorrow, my video about Captain Jack, where you can get all my thoughts and theories on what that's going to be about. But yeah, so then they basically get put to the side and left, completely forgotten about for about 15 minutes, the last 15 or 20 minutes into this episode until the very, very end, which, given what happens in these last 15 minutes, I actually don't have any problem with. I think that, once again, the companions don't really do very much in this story. They, once again, are completely interchangeable as characters in terms of you could basically assign the dialogue of each of these characters to any of them and it would pretty much make sense, apart from a couple of lines of Yaz being a sort of doing the policewoman articles thing, which was good, and I like them utilising her being a policewoman sort of character that she is. But it felt like so much of this episode could have just been, we'll give Ryan that line, now we'll give Yaz that line, now we'll give Graham that line, and so on and so forth, and it was just kind of rotating around each of the three characters in terms of what lines we're going to give them. It feels like the fam are one entity rather than individual characters with different individualistic traits, which I think is a real shame. It's not necessarily a letdown of this particular episode, but it's a letdown of the current era in general, I think, that just there's not enough defining features for each character to make them enough of an independent companion from each other and have enough to do in each other's stories to kind of help and flesh that out even more. And so yeah, as I say, that was again showing this episode. I did like their moments towards the end when they came around, sort of all gathered around the Doctor to try and sort of support her and be there for her. I thought was really, really good. Particularly with Graham's moment in that. He had some really nice lines there and really pulled it off very well. But ultimately, as I say, it doesn't feel like they did that much in this episode once again. And so then we obviously have to come on to the biggest part of this episode, which is when we go to the lighthouse and everything changes, basically. Everything changes. So yes, firstly, obviously, at this point, the Doctor clearly knows that Ruth isn't who she says she is. We've seen her do her whole fighting off the Judoon thing, snapping off the horn and everything, which is quite a cool moment, actually. I really, really like to see that. And I do like when we're in the cathedral, they sort of, after that happened, and Ruth is sat down, she does this moment about, I'm 44, I'm Ruth, I'm 44, I'm a traveller, I'm a tour guide or something like that. I'm from Gloucester, and it's like she's kind of laying out the moment where she's going to repeat that, but as the Doctor, sort of almost trying to convince herself that this is us, the audience, trying to be convinced that this is who she really is. But even though we're kind of getting the impression that's not who she is, and that's who she believes she is, that's who she honestly believes she is, as because of the comedian arch. But in reality, that's not the case, and we're just waiting for them to kind of reveal what it's really all going to be about. And I have to say, I wasn't convinced it was going to be the Doctor at this point. Like, I sort of knew the rumours, so I thought, maybe, could it possibly be? But in reality, I wasn't convinced that was where they were actually going to go with this story. And then they did. So we got to the lighthouse, the Doctor goes up and has a little wander around. The music gets very ominous at this point as well, and very sort of, it feels almost quite dark in tone to an extent. Then we obviously see Ruth break the glass and restore this sort of orangey glow, regeneration or Time Lordy type glow that we see, and her eyes have that moment. You kind of hear a bit of regeneration, I think, sound effect in there as well, which is just all again hinting and implying that that's what this is all about, and that she's actually going to be a Time Lord and then the Doctor. And I honestly, I think it's such a good moment, such a good reveal when we see the Doctor digging down and finding the TARDIS buried underneath there. Like, genuinely, I completely did not expect that even slightly. Like, that was not even in my thought pattern that could possibly be what she was going to find when she started digging there. And as soon as they just revealed the police bit on the top, it was just perfectly revealed. I think it was so effectively done. Then obviously we have Ruth come and walk out, got a cracking Doctor costume on now, and reveals that she's the Doctor, and it's just like, boom, this is massive, mind blown, wow, this is a major shock. Everything is changing now, like, how is this even possible? It just completely kind of blows up the episode, basically. And then within 30 seconds, we're straight in Ruth's Doctor's TARDIS, which is, again, crazy, which looks like a sort of mishmash of the first Doctor's TARDIS. Obviously looking a little bit different, but very much as a basis, I think, in the original TARDIS, is probably what we should call it. And some great moments between the Ruth Doctor and Jodie's Doctor, just them sort of not really liking each other, not being very happy with each other, can't believing that was the future or the past for them and everything. And then obviously this whole mystery around why neither of them can remember each other, when definitely one of them should be able to, if they were a past incarnate, one of them would have to be a past incarnation. So that poses a lot of questions at this point already. Again, I'm also going to be doing another video on more in-depth on the Ruth Clayton Doctor, so I'm not going to go too in-depth on theories around her and what she could, where she could fit in, what she could be, and everything like that. That video should be coming up later today as well, so do check that one out when it comes out. But then obviously we get to the Judoon ship. We find out about Gat and that she's this commander who wants the Doctor dead. We don't know why the Doctor wants to be killed, but clearly there's something pretty bad's gone on there that's requiring that. We find out that Gat isn't actually the one running the scene. It's actually the Time Lords, or seemingly the sort of council of the president of Gallifrey, something like that. Somebody very high up in Time Society in Gallifrey is the person behind this who wants the Doctor dead. So clearly this Doctor, the Ruth Clayton Doctor, has clearly done something quite bad against the Time Lords or Gallifrey or something, that they want to come and shoot and kill her. She's a fugitive that needs to be destroyed. That's pretty major. So I'm not sure quite what's happened, but it's something that I'm sure will be explained when we get further down the line with this. And I love that although we've been introduced to this new incarnation of the Doctor in the Ruth Clayton Doctor, it still feels like Jodie has a great sort of screen presence and a great moment in this scene when she kind of reveals herself to be the Doctor, doing the whole trickery about how the unexpected thing of, well, wait, there's two Doctors, what, that's going to completely confuse everything, mess it up, requiring two payments and all that. We see a bit of ruthlessness from the Ruth Clayton Doctor when obviously the gun is set to shoot backwards basically and kills Commander Gat. Again, that's rather mysterious why they can be killed, but as I say, probably just a timed rifle, essentially. And it sort of leaves the kind of morality of this Doctor left a little bit open. I mean, she does then say a couple of minutes later that oh yeah, I know that the Doctor doesn't use weapons and all that, like, she knows that. So it doesn't feel like it's too far removed from the character of the Doctor, but she does feel a little bit more of a grumpy, morally shady earlier Doctor, and would fit in with kind of the William Hartnell vibe of the Doctor, I think. So that's where it kind of lends some credence to this being a pre-Hartnell Doctor, potentially. And so yes, obviously all of that happens. We then have some pretty ominous dialogue with the Doctor, with the two Doctors in Ruth's TARDIS when she's taking Jodie back, where you can tell that the Ruth Clayton Doctor's pretty kind of unhappy with the situation. It's like, I'd really like it if you get out of my TARDIS now, please, in a pretty sort of ominous tone. Like, she almost feels like anger. I don't know if she's just kind of confused and unhappy about the whole situation and why this is all possible. But yeah, it just again I think pushes the whole early William Hartnell Doctor potentially. And then I think you just see this moment when we see the 13th Doctor walking back and finding Ryan and Yaz, the look on her face where she's just completely overwhelmed with everything she's just seen. She looks on the verge of tears. She looks like she's lost it completely and can't even deal with everything that's happened in this episode. And for her, in basically her whole history, her life not making any sense anymore. If she's met this incarnation of the Doctor, she doesn't understand. I think Jodie throughout this episode is absolutely brilliant. I completely buy into her as the Doctor more than ever before, I think, in an episode like this, where she just really has the whole emotional range that is required for this character. Such confusion and shock. Also trying to kind of save the day a little bit and trick the Judoon and whatnot into sort of helping Jodie out, essentially helping the Doctor out, which I thought was really cool. And just her having to kind of deal with everything that's happened and how that's taking such an emotional toll on it. And really, I believe that really comes out in her character. I think she's so effectively done. Probably is her best performance so far, I think. But obviously, we pretty much finished the episode with that nice speech in the TARDIS where we find out a little bit about the Doctor's thinking that something's coming for her, that everything's time swirling around her with Captain Jack and the Master and this Ruth Doctor. What on earth is going on? There's definitely something coming for her, which obviously again sets up some ominous things for the future of the series and what's going to be coming in the rest of this series, maybe even in series 13 as well, which is quite intriguing. And it's just nice, as I said earlier, seeing the fam coming around her and very much being like, we're your family, we're going to support you, we're going to be here for you, we're going to face whatever challenges that come in the future together. Which I thought was really, really nice to see and nice and supportive, as much as, yes, they're a bit lacking in character and in terms of stuff they do in some of these stories. It does still feel like they're very much the Doctor's friends and proper friends of her that want to be there for her and look after her. And I think she's kind of starting to finally accept that help and that friendship that maybe at times she doesn't want to in relation to some of the bigger, more important things like Gallifrey and her past and everything that's going on at the moment. And to finish the episode, we get the nice little distress signal in the TARDIS, which is setting up the next episode where they're going to be all split off into different locations and some mysterious threat going on. In some ways, it's kind of annoying because you kind of get to this point where you just want to know what's going to happen. You want to find out more about this Ruth Doctor and Captain Jack come back, and you want to just know what's going on and not be sidetracked off into a separate adventure, which he obviously kind of references in the episode, saying, "Oh no, don't! The TARDIS is trying to distract me now. I don't want to be distracted." But hopefully there'll be some sort of arc-related stuff in the next episode to sort of tide us through the rest of this series, because it's something that we're going to get rather impatient for, I think, otherwise, if they wait until episode 9 or 10 to really get stuck into what's going on with everything that's kind of crazily happening at the moment in Doctor Who. So yes, that I think just about covers most of the main things that happen in this episode. As I say, I'll be doing 2 separate videos where I'll be going much more in depth on Captain Jack and much more in depth on the Ruth Clayton Doctor, my theories around that, Joe Martin's performance as the Doctor, and it's everything to do with that as well. So those videos are coming up in the next sort of couple of days on my channel, so please do look out for those. But I hope you guys have enjoyed my review of a crazy, chaotic, spectacular episode with shocks galore that I just wasn't expecting at all. As much as they build this episode to be a major one with big shocks, you won't believe what's going to happen in this episode. Like, I still wasn't convinced it was going to be something like this. Like, this is off the scale crazy. As I say, really is everything changes. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Do let me know in the comments below what you thought of this episode. I know lots of you guys did yesterday and it was brilliant. I love reading all your comments. But if you haven't, or even if you have and you've had a sort of rethink on your opinion, do comment them down below. I'd love to hear them. But apart from that, as always, hit that like button, that subscribe button if you're new here, and I'll see you again very soon for another one. Goodbye.